Hello everybody, it's Claire back with another art journal video. So this is a little bit of a longer one because I'm sharing with you how I made the layered cutout pages using one of Megan Quinlan's new stencils from her new release. So if you follow me on Instagram, you'll have seen this page on Instagram, and it's some cutout waves. And I use her stencil as the template for the waves. So I've drawn around the first one in the craft journal, and I'm just using my Scalpel's sort of craft knife to cut it out. I did end up breaking a blade doing this because it had gone a bit blunt and I was pressing on too hard. So it's always worth, if you're struggling to cut through, just popping a new blade in your knife if you've got the kind of knife that you can do that with. I mean, I think if you are struggling, it probably means your knife has gone blunt, so might need replacing. So there we go, that's the first one. So you notice that I'm leaving a little bit down the left hand side of the page where it joins in to the spine. This is just to make sure that it's kind of got something to be attached to. And then I'm just working out how these are going to layer. So there again, joining the bit for it to join to the spine, and then putting the little cutting mat underneath and cutting it out. So there is a little video as well on my website. If you are a member of my website at artjournallove.com, it's a free tutorial sharing how I made a little book as well, using some of Megan's stencils. It's in the members freebies area, so if you want to watch that, you need to become a member of my website first. It's very easy, and I promise you won't get bombarded with loads and loads of emails. But it's quite a nice little tutorial sharing a little tag book that I made, which, you know, you could use for all sorts of other things too. Okay, so I'm just on the third page, and again just layering the waves, making each one a little bit bigger than the last and putting it in a slightly different position so that when the pages are laying on top of each other, you'll be able to see the layered effect of the waves. And there we go. So that's the 3 pages, and you can see that when they're on top of each other, you can still see each of the waves. So I'm going to be painting each one a different shade of blue. So I'm starting off with turquoise, going straight onto the journal. There is no gesso on these pages at all. I'm just, yeah, and then I was faffing about because the paper moved, but it didn't really matter because I'm going to paint the back of it the same colour too. But I think at that point I hadn't decided to do that, but that is what I ended up doing. So I'm just adding the paint nice and thick because I'm going to go in a bit and add some more details onto these. So paint the front and the back of each wave using the same colour for each page. This turquoise has nearly run out, so I do tend to take the lids off completely and just poke my brush in and get as much out as I can before I chop it up. So then on the second page I'm using Ocean, slightly darker greeny blue. And again just putting a nice thick layer of paint on there just so that it completely covers the wave. And down the spine bit that I've left at the side as well. Okay, so obviously I'm going to be drying each side before I flip it over, but I edit those bits out because I think you don't really need to watch me wafting my heat tool around. So adding some paint on both sides, and then Once that's dry, then going on to the third page, and on the third page I'm using the colour Marine. So again, just a slightly darker colour, and still in that sort of blue family. Making sure I've got that paint on really well there. And then again on the back too. And then on this page behind, I decided that I wanted to do a sort of ombre of blue colours. So I'm starting off, I'm using the same colours as I've used on the waves. I'm starting with Marine, then Ocean, and then I'm going to go in with some turquoise as well. Just kind of blending those colours together a little bit. But my brush was quite wet, so the colours were kind of sinking into the page. So the more saturated your brush is, the better the coverage will be. With paint, that is, not with water. Obviously, if it's with water, then your colours are more likely to blend together and kind of sink into the paper too. So then I am using turquoise. And just brushing those colours together a little bit. And then at the very bottom, I just go in with some white. And although that looked like a Dylusions bottle, it is a Dylusions bottle, but it's got some Amsterdam acrylic white paint in it. I just top it up because it's quite a handy one to have on my shelf in front of where I work. So when it runs out, I just stick more paint in it. There we go. So that's my kind of ombre of bluey colours down to white. And then look, I ended up spreading it up the top. So then I'm going in with my Signo Uniball in white, and I'm doing a sketchy outline on each of these waves. My pens were running out again. I do get through a lot of these Signo Uniballs. They seem to run out very quickly. And when they get to this stage where they start not really flowing very well, it get really frustrating. And this one was being a little bit naughty, and I didn't actually twig straight away why it wasn't working so well. It was in fact because it was running out. So I have bought some more, but it doesn't feel like that long since I last bought some. But it seems to be one of the best white pens that I've found so far. So then I'm using a makeup sponge, and I'm just adding some white onto the edges of these waves, a bit to look like the kind of froth that you get on a really on a sea when there's lots of big waves. And the back one ended up a little bit too white, so I did go back in with a bit of the marine colour. And then I'm just adding some stamping onto the waves too, with a text stamp. And using some nice blues and whites and some archival inks, just to break up the colours a little bit on those waves. So this is also Megan Stencil, as you can see, and I'm just adding a little bit of pattern onto this background. Here I'm using this lovely pattern and some marine, and just adding some of that pattern onto the waves too. And then once that's dry, I am doodling into those using my white pen again, and just pulling that pattern out a little bit. Not going over all of it, just pulling out little bits. And then I decided on that last page I wanted to add some shells. So I grabbed some collage paper and I am stenciling these shells on. This is one of Megan's stencils too. And then I've cut them out and doodled onto them, and I'm just sticking those in place using a glue stick. And then just adding some dots as well, just to ground those images on the bottom of my page. Just going in with some neutral colours, some browns and creams, and I think white and black as well. You can see that just kind of just sort of blend those in quite nicely. And then I added my writing across the top of the waves. So starting on that first wave, the first part of my quote, the second bit on the next wave, and then on the third wave I did just smudge a little bit of white paint over the doodling where I'm writing now, because the doodling was too much in the foreground and it just pushed it away a little bit. And then I finished off my quote on that last page. So that worked quite well. So sometimes when I start journaling, I do have an idea of what I want to do. I don't always know what words I want to use, and I'll often just search online for a quote that kind of speaks about what it was that I was thinking about. And sometimes I start off with the quote and that leads me to my journal page, so it varies such a lot. So this was a quote by Mother Teresa, and here's a little flip through of the finished pages in my craft journal. We feel that what we are doing is just a drop in the ocean, but the ocean would be, I can't remember it, would be less because of the missing drop. It's very true. So thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed watching me make these cutout pages in my craft journal, and I hope to see you again soon.